Hi, I'm family law attorney Kyle Scoresby, and in this video we're going to be talking about the basic steps you have to go through to divide up assets and debts in a divorce. Step number one is identifying the assets and debts that the parties have. And we have to do this using the information that's available from our client, from tax returns, from the client's spouse, and sometimes using subpoenas. The client can provide us valuable information, obviously, because they have personal knowledge of what assets the parties own. So we'll have our client complete an inventory list of their assets and debts and any statements that show and prove the existence of those assets and debts. The second really important piece of information that we can use to identify assets is a tax return. Tax returns have some valuable clues on them. They have schedules that identify all assets that produce interest income or dividend income for the parties. So those schedules can lead us to those income or dividend producing assets. There are also schedules that show any rental income the parties reporting on their tax returns. And so those schedules lead us to real estate the parties might own. Another source of information is an information request to the opposing party in the case, the client's spouse. So we can do that in a couple of different forms. We can ask the other side to fill out their own inventory of assets. We can send them a whole separate set of written questions called interrogatories that ask them to identify and itemize their assets and their debts. And we can also send a request for documents, asking them to produce deeds, account statements, debt statements that show their assets and their debts. Finally, sometimes we have to subpoena information from financial institutions and other entities. The second step is to categorize the assets as either community property or separate property. Community property is property that's acquired during the marriage. That's the only property that gets divided during a divorce. Separate property, which is property owned by either spouse before the marriage or gifted, does not get divided. So we have to distinguish between community property and separate property. Some assets are mixed, like a 401k that may have existed on the date of the marriage, but where money was added to it during the marriage. The third step is to value the assets. This is usually done using either account statements or appraisals. Finally, once the assets have been identified, categorized as either separate or community property, and valued, the next step is to divide the assets. That will be covered in a subsequent video.